Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode 231 of the Orange Pill Investor. And today I want to talk about buying long calls from the option seller's perspective. So let me just outline how I believe that I take advantage of what selling calls can do. So, in general, I want to reduce my cost basis by selling an option. So, for example, if I'm selling a put, because the theta curve is a little bit different for weekly options than it is out of the money options. A lot of times, if I want to own the stock anyway, I just don't care if it gets assigned. So I'll just sell at the money. Now, if you don't think that 152.5 is a good entry price, then you can go as low as you want. You can sell the 145 if you want to own it at that price. But if you're going to go too far out of the money, then the theta curve is optimal according to Tasty Trade research at about 45 days to expiration. Now, unfortunately, for some reason, this November 8th doesn't exist, which would be at 40, close to 45 days. But for example, let's just do we'll go to 52 days to expiration. And so if I was to go way down here, because I'm like, I think it could go down again or whatever. You just don't want an entry price over 130. Okay, boom. If it goes below 130 as of the expiration, I get assigned here, but I got paid $980, so I basically get to reduce my cost basis down to close to 120. And so I mentioned the weekly options because that's kind of my preferred method, and I tend to stay fairly close to at the money. Maybe go a little bit out of the money on a covered call to collect. Well, I'll do the 45-day one right here. So I can go up here to 185, gives about 20% call away value, get paid, $1,000 for the privilege, and then, lower my cost basis. Whatever I paid for these shares, boom, I lowered my cost basis. And selling these options is maximized for either weeklies up to about 45 days to expiration, according to Tasty Trades research. And then like 60 is my limit. I'll 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 sell, if I really wanted to roll out for a credit because the price of something went the wrong, went above my strikes. I don't want to lose those shares. I might go out to 60 days. But beyond 60 days, I feel like the advantage is starting to transfer from the options seller to the options buyer. And the reason is because of theta. So these short dated options, theta is huge because theta is the amount of value that is leaking out of this option contract every single day. So there's only 2 days to expiration left here. So all $2.25 has to drop out of this value. It has to be zero by Friday. So today, 88 cents of that 225 is going to drop out. And then Thursday, another 88 cents is going to drop out. Well, theta can change as well, so it might be a different number. And then whatever's left on Friday during that trading day, the rest of this has to drop out. So the weeklies and up to about 45 days is the sweet spot for maximum theta just draining money from the option buyer into my account. So that's how I view the options world. I want to sell weeklies, close to at the money, maybe some call away value. I want to sell 45 days to expiration, out of the money, manage that trade every 2 to 3 weeks, sell it for high, buy it back for cheaper, sell it for high again, rolling, continually rolling out. So if I flip it and I say, okay, that's when I make money as a seller. Then as a buyer, I have to make sure that I don't do any of the things that advantaged me as a seller. So buying a weekly option, unless I have a damn good reason, maybe I'm a momentum trader or whatever, but just, oh, I think it's going to go up. It went down, so I think it's going to go up, or I have a hunch or whatever. Even some of these technical analysis charts I see, if you can make that shit work, good on you. But these short dated long calls, to me, because theta is so high, you have to be right so fast. Like you have to be right by $65. I'm sorry, 65 cents on this. Just right away. Otherwise, the value is just draining out of this thing. So when I'm buying calls, I want to buy out as far as possible. I want the smallest theta I can get. So generally, I'm looking at leaps. So let's go out to 450 days? Yeah. And let's just look at the theta here. So now theta is like, what was it, 0.8 or 0.6 or something before? Now it's 0.06. So it's an order of magnitude smaller. I can hold on to this for 6 months and only, for right now, only 6 cents is draining out of here a day. Tomorrow it'll be worth 57.04. And that's fine. As long as the price of MicroStrategy improves a little bit, the delta on this thing is 0.69. So even if the price just goes up $1, then the price of this option is going to go up 0.69, and that gives me like 10 days of theta. Now, then the question becomes, okay, do I buy the more expensive ones that are deep in the money? Even bigger delta. This is closer to a synthetic stock, so this is going to appreciate 83 cents on the dollar. And it's only going to drain, almost a nickel out of here every day. Or do I go clear to the top of the chart and get the super deep, dirt cheap ones? I would go deep in the money depending on what I want to do with it. And if what I wanted to do was maybe use it as a synthetic stock to set up a poor man's covered call against, then a nice fat 0.83 delta would allow me to go over here, go back to, I'm basically paying half price for the stock, and then I can go to 45 days to expiration approximately and sell maybe the 170s. Yeah. So I'm going to get the appreciation on the long call, and I'm going to collect some yield on the short call. I have a whole ass video on how to set up poor man's covered calls. So I'm not going to go through all of those steps, but I'm going to buy a deep in the money call. I'm going to pay more for it so that I can use it for this particular purpose. However, if I don't want to sell covered calls against it, then what I generally do is just go to the top of the chart wherever there's still a decent bid-ask spread, as long as there's a decent amount of liquidity up here. So 83 volume is not super, but 4,466 open interest is not bad. Here you can see the delta is much less. You're only going to get appreciation of 0.33 on the dollar. But theta is still pretty small, so that's fine. But the reason why, if I'm just speculating on a price increase, the reason I'm going way up here is because it was costing me like 7,500 for 0.83 delta. And I can get 3 of these for $6,000, and that's going to give me 0.99 delta. So I can get more delta per dollar way up here than I can the deep in the money. So for me, it's just all depends on what I want to do with it. If all I wanted to do is go up, I'll get these cheapies and I'll get as many as I can afford. Positioned, sized correctly for the size of account. Make sure that no single position can hurt you permanently. And the other advantage to getting more delta per dollar is that if the price does shoot up $100, this delta is actually going to increase by this value. So when MicroStrategy is $250 a share, this delta will actually be, let's go down to the 280. Will probably be closer to 44 cents on the dollar. So I'm buying delta cheaper, and if the price goes up, I'm actually getting more delta for free because it's going up by this rate. Whereas if I go down here and look at the 100, the most that the delta can get to is 1. So it's kind of like the way that Elon Musk described why the fastest way to charge your Tesla battery is just to leave it at like 90% max, because once the battery's full or close to being full, it's harder to pour a little bit more energy into those cells that are already nearly full. So it actually takes longer to get to the last 5 or 10%. And that's kind of the way that I think about delta. If it's already at 0.83 and the price goes up another $100, then the price can only just get so close to one before it slows down. Even let's see the one that's all the way at the bottom, 10.5. Yeah, 0.99. Where's this going to go? Even if MicroStrategy went up to 10,000 a share, what is this going to go to? 0.999999? It's you're not going to squeeze any more juice out of this thing. So the deep in the money ones will give you the most price appreciation on small dollar amounts, but all the way at the top of the chain is going to give you the cheapest delta per dollar and then give you bigger kind of delta bonuses as the price increases. But theta, I think, what was it, like 4 cents or something? So theta's a little more up here as well. I think it was. But yeah, so that's the differentiation. If I want to use it as a poor man's covered call, I get the deep in the monies. Otherwise, I go to the top of the chain. Everything in the middle, I guess if you had your heart set on exercising these options at some point, maybe, you're like, "Oh, I think it'll go to 250 or 300. So maybe I'll buy the 200s and then I can get out cheap but still be able to exercise them later." I don't know. That may make sense, but that's just me all making shit up off the top of my head. I can't think of what the advantage to going halfway up the chain would be, unless you had a specific price target, I suppose. Because if I had 4,400 to spend, I'd probably just go up here and get two of these rather than one in the middle of the chain. All right, so I think that's a little bit of reverse thinking. A lot of times I heard about this, you can solve a problem by imagining what's the worst things that you could do and then do the opposite of that. And you end up with a better chance of success than actually thinking about what to do. If you remove the most common elements for failure, then you increase your chances of success. And so that's why I kind of think about it this way. If, as an option seller, me going way out is, you know, is a negative for me, then when I want to do the opposite, I want to basically reverse all of the things that I look for and all of the things that I avoid. I'm just going to flip them all upside down. So as a seller, I want to sell anywhere from weeklies to 45 days to expiration. As a buyer, I want to stay as far away from those as I possibly can. I generally sell my long calls when I get to 90 days. So if I have one that's 6 months or a year or more, I generally try not to hold them under 90 days because that just starts getting too close for comfort for me. So as a seller, I want to keep them under 45. As a buyer, I try to keep them over 90. And then if once I've decided, okay, I really do want to buy a long call, then I decide, okay, what do I want to do with it? Do I want to use it to construct a poor man's covered call? Or do I just want to buy it and hope it goes up? All right. That's it for now. Be good, y'all.